Fellow Toastmasters, a number of years ago, my uncle, who was downsizing, said, hey, you want my library? It's like, okay, that's a trick question. My uncle was the smart person in our family. So I said, oh, absolutely. So he boxed them up and sent them to me. In that plethora of great books was this one book, A Guide to Rational Living. And it was different than most of the rest. It was dog-eared, and there was places where he taped little tags. It was obvious he'd spent a lot of time in this book. So it was like, okay, you're first. I've spent years in this book. As a matter of fact, I've got a PDF version on my tablet now because the original has fallen apart. It's that useful. Are we as human beings rational or emotional? Sharon?
I would say emotional.
And you're correct. We are also rational. It's a two-way street. The backstory is rational emotive behavior therapy was developed in the early 50s by Dr. Ellis. The book, A Guide to Rational Living, he co-authored with another man, and it came out in 1961. I received it 4 years ago and just devoured it. It's been one of those themes that I return to. We often believe that something happens to me, and it pisses me off because they don't respect me, right? This gets into the idea of there are certain things that we must have. The ego tells us a must, a demand on oneself. I must do well, get other people's approval, or I'm no good. That's what the ego says. We must do well. It absolutely has to. The second sphere, that's our personal sphere. The second sphere is we as a group. And we as a group, I expect you to treat me reasonably, considerately, and lovingly, otherwise you're no good. How often have we seen this? Someone treats us poorly, and it's like, well, you're no good. That's the ego, the way it works. It's not inductive, it's deductive. You treated me wrong, you're a bad person. Period. Doesn't take into effect that they've got a crisis, they're doing the best they can, it's just, you're bad. And the third is our relationship with the universe. The universe, the great almighty. Life must be fair. It should be easy and hassle-free. Or else, life sucks, then you die. It's a theory. Now, rationally, we look at this stuff. Rationally, the idea that we can look at something and decide how we respond. Sharon, if I told you to respond, I don't think so, have a nice day. And I told you a catastrophe, and you said,
how can I have a nice day after what you just gave?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Have a nice day. It's a decision. It's a decision.
Yes.
We're all allowed to make decisions. And if we can decide, I don't think so. Have a nice day. Or some other version of this. That's the one I use. The fact is we're all doing the best we can. We can with what we have. And to assume that other people, when they're treating us, are on the same level, that's an assumption. Personally, I don't think so. Have a nice day. It's a method of just defining. Because when people piss you off, who decided to get pissed off? We did. One of the Roman philosophers, Epictetus, he said it really well. Lesson 1, Roman philosopher Epictetus. Only you can upset yourself. Only you can upset yourself. Or not. Recognize that no one else can get inside of you and make you really uncomfortable, except you. And if you decide not to do that, you decide, no, thank you very much, I don't think so, and not become engaged. So the solution, the short solution, some people can develop more realistic outlooks. It's possible. You can decide not to engage someone who's having a bad day. There are certain people, and this is important, people that are having a crisis, you don't want to get in sync with them. Say, hey, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Do you need to talk about it? But not to go into agreement with them, because let's face it, we all have enough on our own plates at any one time to keep us busy. So the solution, to bring it around, the solution here is, Sharon used this word earlier, I prefer to do well. She said, I prefer. And I thought, how did she know this was coming? So preference number one, I strongly prefer to do well and get approval. But even when I fail and learn, it's okay. Because failing and learning is how we learn. You don't learn unless you trip, stumble, and fall. So even when I fail, I'm okay. I've done the best I could with what I had at the time I did it. I'm okay. That's a rational decision that I would implore you, even though it may be difficult, I implore you to take. And the same goes true with other people. I prefer that you treat me reasonably and fairly. And it's a fact of life that to err is human. That is how we learn. I can't control you. I wouldn't want to if I could. And it's okay. And the same goes true for our relationship with the universe at large. I can bear frustration and still enjoy my life, even though that's kind of repugnant to the ego. The ego says, no, me. And the fact of the matter is that it's not about me, it's about us. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.